All right, good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. So we'll go ahead and start in a seat. So just find any comfortable position. So if you want to sit on a pillow or a towel or blanket, block, anything like that to kind of elevate your hips, make the seated position a little bit more comfortable, especially if those hips are a little bit tighter. If you find that to sit in a seated position, you're up here, you can try to elevate your hips I would only do this if you have something that you can prop underneath your butt, basically, to sit on, but you can bring the knees. You can sit on the knees and then prop something in between your legs and just sit back here. So that might feel a little bit better on your hips. So up to you. Right. We can get in that spot, closing down those eyes. Let's go ahead and sit up nice and tall. Resting those hands on the knees. Roll those shoulders up by the ears and then soften them down and back. So closing down the eyes. Start to breathe in and out through the nose. And now take a really big breath in through the nose, filling up the belly, the rib cage, all the way up into the collarbones. And as we exhale, open the mouth and sigh it out. Again, big breath in. And exhale, sigh it out. One more time. Closing down the mouth. We'll just continue to breathe in and out through the nose, but keep that nice big breath. You feel that big expansion, even a stretch through the rib cage. Exhaling that breath out just nice and slow. And just focusing on that breath, letting everything else go, any stress, any tension. And release it with that exhale. We're sitting up nice and tall, reaching up through the crown of the head. We're going to reach our left arm up. Go ahead and bring that hand to the other side of your head and just really gently pull that head over to that shoulder. So finding a stretch through that right side of the neck. So go ahead and bring it back up. Go ahead and release that hand, go to the other side. So we reach that right arm up, just grabbing on kind of right above the ear. And just really gently draw that head down. Then go ahead and release it, bring that head up. Let's just go ahead and drop that chin to the chest. And then sweep that ear over to that left side. Bring that chin back to the chest, and then we'll go over to the right side. Good. Back over to the left. Starting to move on your own. Maybe even ease up just slightly. Just stretching out the neck muscles. Go ahead and bring that head back up to neutral, reaching those arms up. Let's go ahead and gentle twist over to that right side. So sitting tall on that inhale, and then exhale a little deeper into that twist. Bring it back to center, reach the arms up, and exhale, twist it to the other side. Lengthen, sitting tall. Exhale, deeper twist. Inhale those arms up. Exhale, twist. And center. And to the other side. Bring it back to center, reach it up, and twist. Bring it back up, and twist it to the other side. Good, bring it back to center. Go ahead and plant those hands. Let's roll over onto those hands and knees. So Few cat-cows, just warming up that spine. Dropping that belly, lifting the chest, lifting the tailbone as we look up. And exhale, round that spine. Press the shoulder blades away. Draw that belly up and in. And inhale, drop the belly, lift the chest, lift the tailbone as we look up. Exhale, round. Inhale, lift and lengthen. And exhale, round. Yeah, so with that nice rounded spine, go and point the toes if they're not already there. Roll or sit it back into that child's pose. So knees are about a little narrower than hip distance apart. And then round that spine, bring it back up, drop the belly, lift the chest, lift the tailbone, look up. Exhale, round, press it back to that child's pose. To bring it back up. Drop the belly, lifting that chest into that cow spine. Exhale, round it to cat spine as you roll it back. To bring it back up. Last time, drop the belly, lift the chest. Good, and round. Okay, now bring it just to neutral spine. We're gonna walk those hands forward, keeping those hips up nice and high. So hips are over the knees. And then soften that chest or forehead down towards the mat into our puppy pose. So spreading out those fingers, pressing into the palms, keeping those elbows just slightly lifted off of the mat. So we're really active through those arms, just not softening the elbows down. And then come back up onto those hands and knees. Let's just go ahead and step it back to a downward facing dog. Just take your time here, pedal those feet out. Maybe swaying those hips. Just any movements that you feel like you need. Stretching out through the ankles, the calves, the hamstrings. And then come onto the toes. Bend those knees, look forward, stepping those feet to the top of the mat. Finding that flat back so you can bring those hands all the way up to your knees, release mid-shin. Lifting through that tailbone, flatten out that back. You'll feel that big stretch through those hamstrings. And then we'll slide those hands down as we fold. Just let that head hang heavy. You can shake the head yes, maybe shake the head no, releasing any tension you might be holding in your neck. Good, now bend into those knees. Again, flatten out that back as we rise up to standing. Reach up nice and tall. We're gonna draw those elbows down. So feel going out those arms. Inhale, reach it back up. Exhale those elbows down. Inhale, send it back up. And exhale, draw those elbows down. Now let's get that big stretch through the front of the shoulders. So interlace the fingers. Start by pulling those knuckles down towards the ground first and rolling the heads of the shoulders back. So you'll start to feel that stretch here. Kind of right here through the pecs, through the shoulders. And then we can go a little further. Maybe we start to bring those hands away from those hips. Keeping that core nice and tight. Now we'll keep those fingers interlaced. We're just going to relax the arms, bringing those hands over to that left hip, and then we'll drop that left ear towards that left shoulder. Lift the head up. Let's go to the other side. Bringing the hands over to that right hip and then drop that ear down. Bring that head back up. Inhaling those arms, reaching up nice and tall. And exhale, flat back as we fold. So again, if you're a little stiff this morning, maybe those hands just come right to those shins, flattening out that back. And then exhale, maybe we slide those hands down as we fold. And then bend into those knees. We're gonna rise back up. Reaching those arms up nice and tall. Again, draw those elbows down, field goal. Inhale it back up. Exhale it down. Inhale it up. Allow this one. Exhale it down. Straighten out those arms. Interlace those fingers. Open up through that chest. Reach those arms back. And release those arms up. Exhale, fold. We're going to add a little twist this time. So flatten out that back. Bending into that right knee as we twist. Right or left arm reaches up. And keeping those hips pointing straight back, not swaying off to the side. And lower it down. We're going to go to the other side, bending into that left knee. Right arm reaches up. And lower that hand down as we fold. Bending into the knees last time. Rise back up to standing. Reach it up top. Drawing those elbows down. So just do one time in that field goal. Reach it back up. And pull those elbows down. Interlace those fingers. Big opening through that chest. And we'll release those arms up. Exhale, fold. Find that flat back on the inhale. Bending into that right knee. Left arm reaches up. And lower. To the other side, bending into that left knee. Right arm reaches up. And lower those hands down. So we're going to plant those hands down. We're going to step those feet back to our plank. Okay. Go ahead and lower down into that push-up. So we're going to go into those baby cobras. So pointing those toes. Hands are right underneath the shoulders. Go and roll the shoulders down and back as we lift that chest up. So that lowest part of the rib cage is going to stay on the ground. Good. Now soften it down. Roll it back up. Good. And down. And let's roll it back up. Good. Bring it back down. Curl those toes under. Reversing that plank. Then again, send those hips up and back into that down dog. Okay, now step that right foot through. Back heel is going to lower down. Inhale, reach those arms up. So we're coming into that warrior one. Squaring those hips off to the front. Press into that back heel. So we want to feel that big stretch through the calf, maybe even through this left hip flexor as we square the hips off. So that means we're going to pull the left hip forward, right hip back. Reaching up through those fingertips. Now draw those arms down, interlace the fingers, open up through that chest. Bend into that front knee a little bit more, and then start to fold. So just cover that chest over that thigh, or maybe you can bring that shoulder all the way down to touch that knee. So you might be kind of somewhere in between. One more breath. And then we'll release as we come back up. And lower the hands down. Go and step it back to our downward facing dog. And then we'll go to the other side, stepping that left foot through to that thumb. Back heel lowers down. Inhale those arms up. Squaring off those hips. So pull that right hip forward, left hip comes back, rib cage down. And we'll draw those arms and interlace the fingers. Open up that chest. And then fold. Couple more breaths. And release those arms as we come back up. Lowering those hands down to the ground. Step it back. And lower. Inhale, lift it up into that cobra. Maybe if you're ready, press up into that upward facing dog. And then exhale, send the hips up and back, down dog. Good, now come onto the toes. We're gonna step those feet behind the hands. Turning those toes out just slightly. We're gonna come into that squat. So driving those knees out. Drop the hips down, lifting through that chest. Those hands can come to heart center. That core stays nice and tight. Breathing is maybe sit the hips down a little bit lower. Just keeping that nice flat back. One more breath. And then straighten those legs as we fold. Just let the head and the arms hang nice and heavy. Go ahead and come up to standing. We're going to take a big step open. Hey, it doesn't really matter which foot if it helps you to turn towards the camera. That's would be helpful. So bring those feet parallel to each other. So those big toes are turning in just slightly. We're thinking the outside edges of the feet are nice and straight. Okay, now send those hips back as we start two folds, that really wide leg forward fold, and flattening out that back on that inhale. And then exhale, we'll fold. Just walk those hands back a little bit more. Maybe gazing between those legs. Flatten out that back on the inhale. And then exhale, fold a little bit deeper. Just gazing between the legs. You can bend the knees a little bit more. So think of to help you flatten out that back. And then go ahead and rise back up. So flatten out that back. You can keep the hands down on the ground. Turn your toes out just a few degrees. And then we're gonna lunge into that right knee. Back is flat, chest is up, hips are sinking down. Bring it to center. Let's go over to the other side. So over to that left side. And bring it back to center. We're gonna go 2 more times each way. So over to the right. Center, over to the left. One more time. To the right. Center, to the left. And center, again, turning those toes in. Flatten out that back as we fold. Now, you want to kind of spice up a little bit. Maybe walk those feet out a little bit wider. Get that top of the head a little bit closer to the ground. A little bigger stretch through those inner thighs. If that's what you want, if that's a little bit too much, don't feel like you have to do it. Heel toe walk, those feet in so it's a little bit more manageable. We're gonna walk back to the front of your mat. So whatever foot is forward is fine. Okay, just spin that back heel up. So we're gonna kind of come into that lunge position. Back leg is nice and strong. I think we're kind of pulling the hips straight down towards the ground. And then we're gonna twist, reaching. So if your left leg is forward, you're gonna reach your left arm up. If your right leg is forward, your right arm reaches up. Lower that hand down. Let's just go ahead and switch sides. So come to down dog. Step that other foot forward and then even out that twist. Just switching sides. And lower that hand down. Go ahead and step it back to a plank. Let's move through one last vinyasa. So lower. Inhale, let's cobra or up dog. And exhale, those hips up and back. Downward facing dog. Let's come back down to our knees. Okay, so we're gonna turn sideways again. So we're gonna do a few moments in our frog pose. Okay, so frog, or we can do tadpole. So we're gonna send those knees out as wide as we can get them. So again, me personally, I like to angle my toes back a little bit more, so it's more like a wide leg child's pose. But if you want to do that full frog, you're just gonna bring your toes to point opposite directions, trying to get the ankles right in line with the knees, or maybe even a little bit wider than your knees. Okay, so then just sit the hips back as far as your body will allow. Lower those forearms down. Just actively press those hips back to your heels. Big stretch through those inner thighs Out through the groin. Core stays tight, pressing those hips back. Slowly come out of it. And just go ahead and come onto your backs. I'm going to start with the knees bent. We're going to go into that hip bridge. And so we want to get those feet pretty close to our feet pretty close to our hips. Okay, toes are pointing straight forward. Arms can be by your side. And then press into those feet as we lift those hips up. So scooping that tailbone up. Rib cage draws down. Core stays nice and tight. And slowly roll it down. Let's cross that left ankle over that right thigh. Hug that knee in. So grabbing on to that right hamstring as we pull that knee in. And then go ahead and switch sides, just crossing that right ankle over, hugging that knee in, so grabbing those that hamstring or maybe the shin, just depending on how tight those hips are feeling this morning. Go ahead and release it, hugging both knees in. Now stack those knees right over those hips. Okay, we're gonna drop the knees over to that right side as we tee out those arms. So keep that left shoulder grounded down. It's okay if maybe that top knee is hovering, if it's a little bit tight. Bring it back to center. We'll go the other way. So just dropping the knees over to the left side. Right shoulder stays down. And bring the knees back up. Hug the knees in for just a moment. Go ahead and make your way up into that seat. The eyes remain closed. Sitting tall, hands are just resting on your knees. And just pausing it here for a moment. And those eyes open. Thank you guys so much for joining this morning. Have a great day. And I will see you all later.